What is good, everyone? What is good? It's that boy bonthagreat coming to you with some more Switch 2 news. So as we can see, Switch 2 game cards versus game key cards. What's the difference? The Switch 2 adds a new wrinkle to its games distribution system. Here's what you get with a game key card and how to tell which one you're buying before you check it out. All right, so let's go see what he got to say. Jason Tobin.
The Nintendo Switch 2 will feature several launch day titles we're excited to try, but how you access these games may differ from previous iterations of the console. The Switch 2 supports regular game cards, where the game files fit on the physical cartridge, but also game key cards, which don't actually contain the full game data. Here's what you need to know before you pick up Mario Kart World or Metroid Prime 4. What is a game key card? As Nintendo explains, game key cards are your key to downloading the full game to your system via the internet. They come in a case and include cartridges that slide into the Switch 2 like any other physical release. However, you'll need an internet connection to download the game's files before playing. After that initial download, you no longer need an internet connection to play, but the card does need to be inserted into the Switch 2. Game key cards are also not tied to a Nintendo account, so you can use them on other Switch 2 consoles or lend and resell your games. Nintendo also released a virtual game card system that will make it easier to share digital games going forward, too.
So in my opinion with that, okay, so I truly believe Nintendo really thinking that this is a positive thing to do, in which, to me, it doesn't make any sense at all. Because you got game cards versus game key cards. Like, you try to make it like they're the same, but you know what I'm saying? One of them you need, well, both of them you actually need fucking Wi-Fi to download the stuff. One of them you don't need the cartridge, the other one you don't need the cartridge. Like, make stuff make sense, man. Because I mean, like, your key to downloading the full game to your system. But then, backtrack, you said that, well, after initial download, you no longer need an internet connection to play. But the cards does need to be inserted into the Switch too. Like I don't understand why gaming companies are doing that. Cause I mean, if I buy a physical copy, yes, I should be able to only play the game with the physical copy in there. But now everyone wants to download the game to the console like it's a digital game. So we download the game to the console, or whatever the case may be, right? But we still have to have the hard drive in there. What's the point of downloading the game if I have a CD drive with all the data on there? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Now, I can see if I got a digital game. Then, okay, yeah, and then even with that, when I don't play, when we can't play offline or whatever the case may be, which they said, you know, and so keep it with the game key cards, which don't actually contain the full game data. So you saying the game key cards don't actually contain the full game data? Other than, you know what I'm saying, the cartridges do, but the damn key cards, the key cards don't? Like, what sense does that make? But anyway, going back to my point I was trying to make this a minute ago. So right here, to my download the full game, your system via the internet. They come in case. They come in a case and include cartridges that slide into Switch 2 like any other physical release. However, you will need an internet connection to download the game files before playing. That is honestly how the Xbox and the PlayStation is. So with this right here, it's pretty much physical copy, digital copy, in my opinion. Like how they're doing on PlayStation and Xbox. It's just worded differently or whatnot. Even though the digital don't have the full game on there or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Because, people like to talk shit. Comprehensions is not a thing for them or whatnot, because it clearly says it right here. The Switch 2 supports regular game cards, where the game files fit on a physical cartridge, but also game key cards, which don't actually contain full game data. Game key cards, which don't actually contain the full game data. Tell you right there. Think about it. All right, so let's move on. How to tell if you're buying a game key card. I thought I was going to extend it. Okay, Nintendo provides a helpful indicator on the box. How to tell if you're buying a game key card. Nintendo provides a helpful indicator on the box. But get ready to squint, as illustrated in the image below. The case shows the game's rating at the bottom left corner, next to the key logo and the words game key card in very, very small print. It also says how many gigabytes of free space you need and a note, full game downloaded via internet required. Alright, so here we go right here, people. I need this to get the fuck out of here. So here we go right here, people. This is what they said. So at the bottom right here, there you go to the rating. And right here, zoom in right there. Game key card right there. In which they have it. Blew up, but you know what I'm saying? It's not going to be that big. It's going to be a little small. That's why I was right there at the bottom. So, right here. This is how it's supposed to look. Right there. We're moving on.
While we've likely moved beyond the days when confused parents couldn't tell the difference between the Wii and Wii U, Nintendo notes that the Switch 2 supports both regular game cards and game key cards, which leaves room for consumer confusion. If a publisher opts to use the game key card format, there won't be a separate release on a true game card, at least not yet, but you might still grab a game off the shelf in Target only to get home and realize it's a game key card. Sure, the game's still there, but if physical media matters to you, it could be a deal breaker. After all, if a game is on the cart, it can be theoretically played forever. If you need an internet connection to download the game, what happens when those servers go offline one day?
Thank you! Thank you! What? Somebody gets it. Somebody gets it. So I pulled up another site to where you can see everything that's going on from Nintendo's perspective. They actually had an interview. So we're gonna talk more and more about the key card situation and the actual physical cartridges.
When you say we look at the value of the game, we look at the entertainment, the longevity, the development that went into it, when some of their last gen ports also cost $80. So that answer just does not hold up for me, but I wasn't able to kind of get a new answer on that from him.
Another, sort of controversy surrounding Nintendo now revolves these game key cards. Can you explain this situation for us?
Yeah, so the game key card is a new option at physical retail. So if you go to Target or Walmart or something like that, there is a box that will be labeled as a game key card. And inside, there is a physical Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge, but it actually has no game data on it. So it's a key that you put into the Switch 2 cartridge slot, and then it directs you to the eShop where you download that game. And so
Right.
it has no game data on it. It's essentially like a physical cartridge representing a download code.
So and see that's the crazy thing to me. You guys are literally selling a blank cartridge that you still have to go download to get it on the game. To get a pretty much like they say the key. That is beyond me. And you know what? I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let him finish.
The benefit to it is that I could lend that game key card for something like, I don't know, Street Fighter 6 to you, and then you could install Street Fighter 6 and play it only when you have that game key card plugged into your Switch 2. So it is a way to kind of share digital games in this funky way with this physical access code to get access to it, but otherwise it kind of has none of the convenience of digital and none of the benefits of physical that people like having the game on the card that people can't take away from you. So it's a funky one.
I mean, if the game is on the cartridge, that's easy to share too.
Yes, it's very easy. Yeah.
I don't understand. This can't be a cost-saving measure, right? Because they're manufacturing the cartridge, they're putting the sticker on it. It can't cost them anymore to put the data on it, right? I don't.
No, that actually is what this is. Nintendo, if you have a 64 gigabyte card, that costs a lot more to buy and manufacture those physical versions than a game key card, which has no storage space on it. So it is cheaper for third parties to go the game key card route. That is the route Nintendo has opted to offer this generation, and third parties are taking it. Most third-party games on Switch are going the game key card route so far. Cyberpunk's not, but most other ones are.
Well, you asked Doug about this. His response was, in the immediate future, physical games are still a key part of our business, and we value our relationships, in particular with our retailers, and want to make sure we have products available for them to sell to their consumers. I mean, sure, but he's not addressing the fact that, yeah, the retailer has something they can sell, but he's not addressing the fact that people would rather have the game on that cartridge, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how much these actually sell, and because that's what people like about physical. A license expiring or a store shutting down, it can't take that game away from you in theory, and that's not the case here. So with game key cards, they're making their third-party partners happy with a cheaper option to get something on store shelves. They're making their retail partners happy because Nintendo still sells roughly 50% physical and 50% digital. They are far and away the highest ratio still selling physical software in the industry. So they're keeping their retail partners happy. Seems like the people that are the least happy about this are the actual consumers. So it works out for everyone.
But see, they said it works out for everyone, right? So, and I understand the whole thing of them trying to, the whole sharing thing, I think that's becoming an issue or whatnot. Because I'm one of those, if I buy a hard copy, I expect to have a hard copy. I don't expect to have a empty cartridge or a empty CD that I have to go download it to just for that particular game or whatnot. And then, you know what I'm saying, if I, say for instance, if I do sell it or whatever the case may be, or give it away or whatever, I can't share it. I can't share it like that, because either way it go, you still have to give somebody else that cartridge, and they still have to download it.
What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
We'll see how the market responds.
Well, overall, like, so, what was your feeling? What was your takeaway? I think you've talked to Doug before.
Yes, I have.
He was there primarily to talk about the new San Francisco store opening, but you did get in some questions about price and tariffs and all that. So, what was your sort of feeling after walking away from this interview? And what's your overall take on Doug as the only the third face of Nintendo of America that we've ever had?
Yeah, and a follow-up to the most iconic face Nintendo of America has ever had, right, with Reggie Fils-Aimé. So he's in a tough spot because people loved Reggie so much. They trusted Reggie.
All right, so here is another thing that's been brought to my attention. Who really owns your Switch 2? It's a me suggest Nintendo. So pretty much this is saying that Nintendo will have you sign an agreement. So you need to read the whole agreement, definitely for you modders. If you like modding your games or whatever the case may be, Nintendo not going for that. Nintendo is pretty much going to be like, if you mod it any kind of way, they have the right. Since you signed an agreement, pretty much an NDA, saying that if you do anything to Nintendo Switch 2, they have the power to actually cut your console off to where you can't even play the games you physically bought, not online. If they cut that mug all the way off.
The hype train barrels forward for the Nintendo Switch 2 as pre-orders continue to mount, with the handheld console rapidly approaching its June 5th launch date. Given the astronomical success of the original Switch, which sold over 120 million units to date following its March 2017 release, expectations are sky-high regarding Nintendo's next-gen offering. However, while fans ponder performance, fantasize about frame rates, and rave over ray tracing, there's another side to the Switch's story: ownership itself. You may have spent $450 or $499 if you opted for the Mario Kart World bundle of your hard-earned dollars on a brand new Switch 2 ahead of its launch. Or you may be prepping yourself for a midnight release at your local brick and mortar. In your mind, the Switch 2 is already yours. And that might be the problem. According to a recently updated section of Nintendo's End User License Agreement, EULA, Switch 2 ownership might be all in your head.
All in your head.
Nintendo has always had a tumultuous relationship with issues of piracy. Emulation, imitation, and modding is a bit like saying Dynamite and Sparks find each other slightly disagreeable. This is, after all, the company that attempted to sue a Costa Rican supermarket in January over trademark infringement, got multiple streamers banned for the unforgivable crime of playing a game they legally owned, and struck down the sale of custom-designed Joy-Cons in honor of popular, deceased YouTuber Desmond Etika Amofa. And you can read many more instances here. When it comes to obsessing over its brand, intellectual property, and the sanctity of its products, nobody does it quite like Nintendo. It has a vice-like grip on everything it produces. And you may find yourself wrestling with that same grip when it comes to the ownership of your Switch 2, as updated language in the company's EULA, as spotted by GameFile's Stephen Totilo, suggests that Nintendo will be retaining its hold on the console long after you've made your purchase. A recent change to the language of Nintendo's End User License Agreement, EULA, suggests that users who violate the agreement may render the Nintendo account services and/or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part, effectively bricking the console of offenders and rendering it useless. Image credit: Stevie Bonnyfield. A recent change to the language. The updated agreement offers the usual legalese language to indicate Nintendo's disapproval of piracy, tampering, and modding of its console, as well as efforts to exploit Nintendo account services in any way. While the language is stricter and clamps down tighter than before on any potential meddling, it's the end of the paragraph that should prick the ears of those interested in picking up a Switch 2 for themselves. It reads, "You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and/or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part." Roughly translated, break the rules, and we're well within our rights to not just ban you from using Nintendo's online services, but we can also break your Switch 2 at will. Permanently. What's next? The Switch May 2nd end up being Nintendo's biggest hardware launch to date, but the question of what it really means to own the handheld console may loom over that parade like a dark cloud. Yes, technically, this rule should only impact those neo-do-wells that hope to interfere with the Switch 2 in ways that the vast majority of owners won't. But if they've bought it, if they own it, do they not have the right to do with it as they see fit? It's a wider point than Nintendo preventing piracy or the use of emulators and homebrew on its platform. In a time where we're routinely told that we don't actually own any of our games by various publishers, is the next step on that path being told that the hardware in our hands is just a very expensive lease that's only upheld on the grounds of you being a good boy/girl. If you're looking to hop aboard that Switch 2 hype train, just remember, toe the line or Nintendo may remind you who has final say over what ownership of the upcoming console looks like. Spoiler, it's not a you. More from Laptop Mag. The Switch 2 might not stay at its launch price. Nintendo explained Rail Hornby, potentially influenced by far too many LucasArts titles at an early age, once thought he'd grow up to be a mighty pirate. However, after several interventions with close friends and family members, you're now much more likely to see his name attached to the interventions with close friends and family members.
So, okay, hold on. That's crazy work. So pretty much, that really just explained everything you need to know when you purchase a Nintendo Switch. Pretty much Nintendo is saying, play my stuff as is. If you do anything to it, you gonna get the boot. Regardless if you purchase that handheld system or whatever the case may be. You need to abide by my rules, comply. If not, you're done. You're out of here. That's crazy work. So, what my suggestion is, if you want to buy Nintendo Switch, it's okay. It's fine that you want to do that, or whatever the case may be. But just know, if you do anything to mod it to your liking, they're gonna come for you and they're gonna cut that mug off. Like I was saying, hopefully it go well and you'll get the experience you want from the game, and not just being told what to do, because they pretty much telling you what it is, what it's gonna be like. And so you need to make a decision on what you're gonna do, because they already said we don't own the games, we just license the games. So pretty much licensing a game means that if the servers get pulled off, you can't play the game. Even if you have a hard copy of that mug, it's still some kind of way they can just make it to where that game don't exist anymore or whatnot. But in my experience, games that get pulled from the servers, you just can't play it online. You have to play that game offline. And it's just crazy to me that a lot of people are willing to, because they love the franchise, they're just going to just do whatever and not look at the overall principle of what's going on in the world of gaming. But if y'all like this video, if y'all want more of these videos, just let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? We can have more conversations like this about these kind of topics. Or if you want me to switch topics, let me know. You know what I'm saying? But until then, this is bonthagreat signing out.